Let me tell you something that'll change the way you do business forever. People don't buy products, they buy promises. They don't wake up in the morning thinking, I hope someone sells me a product today. No, they wake up hoping their life gets better in some way. They want a breakthrough, they want transformation, and your job, if you want to command high value, is to sell that transformation. Now, most entrepreneurs and business owners make the mistake of focusing too much on the thing. They talk about features. They talk about the number of calls, the number of modules, the number of pages in the ebook. They're selling units, not outcomes, but let me paint a picture for you. Imagine someone goes to a hardware store and asks for a drill. The salesperson could say, we have this 12-volt drill, comes with 2 battery packs, variable speed, compact design. And that's cool, but that's not what the customer came for. The customer didn't come for a drill. They came because they need a hole in the wall. But let's go deeper. They don't even really want the hole. They want to hang a picture. Why? Because they want their living room to feel like a home. That's what they're buying. They're buying the feeling that comes after the result. You see, the product is a vehicle. The promise is the destination. And when you can articulate the destination with clarity, confidence, and conviction, people will follow you anywhere and pay you handsomely to lead them. Here's the problem. Most people don't even realize they're selling the wrong thing. I've met coaches who say, I offer 8 weekly Zoom sessions. Okay, great, but so what? What does that do for the client? What change will they experience? What pain are you removing? What desire are you fulfilling? Because if you don't communicate that, your offer will be overlooked, even if your product is amazing. When you package the promise, you shift your marketing language from mechanics to meaning. You go from saying, this is what I do, to saying, this is what happens when you work with me. Let me give you a real life example. I once worked with a woman who helped people with fitness. She was selling 12-week training plans, meal guides, and accountability check-ins. That's what she thought her offer was. But when we dug into what her clients actually experienced, we found something powerful. Her clients weren't just losing weight. They were gaining confidence. They were feeling sexy again in their own skin. Their marriages were getting better. Their energy was changing. Their mindset was shifting. So we rewrote her offer to highlight the transformation. Now she wasn't just selling a fitness plan. She was offering a 12-week transformation to reclaim your health, confidence, and joy without starving, stressing, or spending hours at the gym. And guess what? She raised her prices, her clients showed up more committed, and her business exploded. Why? Because she packaged the promise. Let me give you a biblical truth right here. Write the vision and make it plain. Habakkuk 2:2. When people can see the vision you're casting, when they can visualize the future you're promising, they can believe it, buy into it, and move toward it. That's what great leaders do. They don't just deliver, they declare. They don't just explain, they inspire. So when you're crafting your offer, I want you to stop and ask yourself, what is the deep desire this offer fulfills? What does life look like for the person after they say yes to me? Write that out. Speak that in your videos. Put that in your sales page. Make that the headline. Remember, nobody is paying you for your time, your tools, or your templates. They're paying you to make them feel something new, become someone greater, and live a life that looks more like the one they dream about when no one's watching. So stop underselling yourself. Stop hiding behind your deliverables. Step into your power and sell the promise, not the product. Because if God gave you a solution, it's your responsibility to package it in a way that feels like an answered prayer to the person who's been looking for it. That's how you increase your value, not by doing more, not by adding fluff, but by revealing the true transformation your offer provides. And when you do that, your prospects won't ask, why should I buy from you? They'll be asking, how soon can we start? Most people in business make the fatal mistake of focusing on price. They worry, is it too expensive? Will people pay this much? Should I offer a discount? And in doing so, they completely miss the point. Let me set the record straight right now. Price is never the problem. Value is, Because when the value is clear, when it's overwhelming, undeniable, and stacked higher than the price tag, people don't just buy. They feel blessed to buy. You see, people don't mind paying. In fact, people love to pay. When they believe they're getting more in return than what they're giving, that's the key to everything. It's not about lowering the price. It's about raising the value. Now, I want you to imagine this. If I offered you $100 bill for $10, would you hesitate? No, you'd grab it without thinking twice. Why? Because you can see the value. It's immediate, it's obvious, it's a no-brainer. That's exactly how your offer should feel to your audience. It should feel like they're getting a $10,000 transformation for $997, a $50,000 breakthrough for $5,000. And how do you make it feel like that? You stack the value. Stacking the value means you don't just deliver one piece of the puzzle, you deliver the whole experience, you anticipate needs, you answer questions before they're asked. You take people from confusion to clarity, from frustration to freedom, from doubt to decision, and you do it in layers. Let me break it down. Let's say you're a business coach. Most coaches will offer a 6-week program and say, you'll get weekly calls with me. Okay, that's fine, but it's not enough. You're selling steak without the sizzle. But what if you said you get 6 weeks of high-level strategy sessions, plus a private onboarding call to map your vision, a digital vault with templates and scripts, lifetime access to a client-only Facebook group, a bonus training on lead generation, and weekly accountability check-ins to make it? Sure, you don't just learn, but implement. Now we're talking. That's stacking the value. Here's why it works. Each added element increases the perceived outcome. It helps the buyer see not just the result, but the journey, the tools, the support, the safety net. And suddenly, the same program that used to feel expensive now feels like a steal. Stacking the value also addresses objections before they arise. If someone's worried about getting stuck, your implementation sessions solve that. If they're worried about what happens after the program ends, your lifetime access solves that. If they think it might not be for them, your onboarding call customizes it. That's value stacked on value, until resistance crumbles under the weight of your offer's excellence. Now, hear me on this. Stacking value does not mean stuffing your offer with fluff. We're not talking about more videos or more worksheets just for the sake of padding. We're talking about intentional additions, bonuses, resources, and deliverables that directly support the promise of the offer. You're not overwhelming people with information, you're empowering them with tools, and here's the best part. When you stack value, you can raise your price with integrity. You're not inflating cost, you're aligning price with impact. And that's a righteous thing to do, because when people pay more, they show up more, they take the process seriously, and they get better results. Let's bring it back to something deeper. Jesus said in Luke 6:38, "Give, and it will be given to you, a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap." That's a principle of value. When you give more than expected, when you pour into others with abundance, what happens? It comes back to you multiplied. That's what stacking value is. It's giving in overflow. It's serving with excellence. It's showing people that they're not just buying a transaction, they are entering a transformation. And that transformation is supported by every bonus, every system, every layer of value you provide. So I want you to go back to your offer today. I want you to look at every piece of it and ask, how can I increase the perceived value without increasing the workload? How can I give more transformation, not just more information? How can I turn this from a product into a breakthrough machine? Because when you stack the value, you don't have to compete on price. You become the standard. You don't have to convince anyone. You just show up and serve with such clarity and confidence that people say, whatever that is, I want in. In business, the fastest way to become invisible is to look like everyone else. The more you blend in, the more your value gets buried, and when you're buried, people pass you by, not because you're not valuable, but because you didn't give them a reason to stop and notice. That's why if you want to rise, if you want to dominate your space, if you want to charge what you're worth and get it, You've got to create a category of one. Let me break it down. Most people are out here competing. They're looking left and right, trying to figure out what the other guy is doing and then copying it with a slight twist. Same colors, same sales pitch, same buzzwords, and then they wonder why they're stuck attracting broke prospects, chasing sales, and offering discounts just to survive. You were not created to blend in. You were created to stand out, not to hustle for attention, but to command it. And you do that by creating a new space where you are the only name in the room. You stop being one of many and start being the one. That's what it means to be in a category of one. Now listen. Categories already exist. There are fitness coaches, marketing consultants, real estate agents, life coaches, digital course creators. And when you label yourself with those general titles, people put you in a mental box. They compare you to every other coach, every other agent, every other expert they've ever seen, and you don't want that, because when people compare, they shop by price, but when there's no one to compare you to, you set the standard. That's when they shop by value. That's when they choose you because they can't get what you offer anywhere else. To create a category of one, you have to own your difference, not hide it, not minimize it. You've got to magnify what makes your voice, your method, your story, your approach completely unique. You've got to turn your background, your pain, your process into a framework that positions you as the only viable choice. You take what you've lived through and you turn it into intellectual property. You give it a name, a formula, a methodology, because the minute you name your process, you trademark your value in the minds of your audience. Let me give you an example. There are plenty of people who teach sales, but when I teach sales, I don't just teach it. I deliver it through the lens of the Offer Mastery Framework. I use spiritual principles, economic truth, and proven techniques, and I show you how to package your offer so good people feel dumb saying no. That's not sales like everybody else teaches it. That's Myron Golden sales. I created a category of one by owning my unique blend of spirituality, wealth, building wisdom, and persuasive communication. That's why I'm not competing, I'm leading. You can do the same, but it requires clarity. You've got to define who you help, what you help them do, and how you help them do it differently than anyone else. And you don't just explain it, you brand it. You don't say, I'm a health coach. You say, I help women reverse fatigue in 30 days using my energy activation method. Now you're not just a health coach. You're the creator of a path, a new way, a new category. When people hear your name, they should immediately associate it with a specific outcome, a specific audience, and a specific promise. That's how you build authority. That's how you break through the noise, because people don't follow generalists. They follow specialists who solve their problem in a way that no one else can. And let's not forget, this is biblical. God didn't create you to be a copy. He made you an original. Psalm 139 says you are fearfully and wonderfully made. That means you've got a fingerprint no one else has, a voice print no one else carries. So why would you try to fit into a mold someone else built when you were born to redefine the mold? Creating a category of one isn't just marketing. It's spiritual. It's alignment. It's standing in the fullness of who you were called to be. When you do that, you stop lowering your prices. You stop explaining yourself. You stop chasing clients. Instead, you attract, you compel, you magnetize. People come to you not because you're convenient, but because you're the only one who offers the breakthrough they've been praying for. So I challenge you today, what makes your story, your method, and your mission different? Name it, claim it, frame it, and stop trying to be the best in your category. Start being the only one in it. Because when you create a category of one, you don't compete, you dominate. There's a mindset that's keeping too many gifted, anointed entrepreneurs stuck. And that mindset is charging based on time instead of results. It's trading hours for dollars. It's asking, how long will this take? Instead of, what's the transformation worth? And that mindset is rooted in limitation, not abundance. Let me tell you the truth. Your time is valuable, yes, but your results are priceless. If someone can spend 1 hour with you and it changes the next 10 years of their life, is that hour worth $100? Or is it worth $10,000? People don't pay for the time it takes. they pay for the result it creates. And if you want to grow your income, your impact, and your authority, you've got to stop selling time and start charging for transformation. See, the world has trained people to think that value comes from effort and duration. You clock in, you clock out, you work 8 hours, you get paid for 8 hours. That's the employee mindset. But entrepreneurs, creators, visionaries, we operate by a different standard. We operate by value creation, not time consumption. If I can solve someone's $50,000 problem in 30 minutes, do I devalue the solution because it was fast? Of course not. In fact, the speed makes it more valuable, because what I really gave them wasn't just a solution, it was a shortcut. It was access. It was the fruit of years of experience, knowledge, trial, error, and divine insight compressed into a moment that saved them months, or even years, of struggle. And let's be clear, charging for results isn't about being greedy. It's about being aligned with what you actually deliver. If you've got the God-given ability to change lives, grow businesses, fix broken systems, or restore relationships, why would you discount that just because it didn't take you all day to do it? Fast doesn't mean cheap. Fast means you're excellent. Think about a heart surgeon. They may only be in the operating room for 2 hours, but you're not paying them for 2 hours of their time. You're paying them for the years of education, the precision of their skill, and the life-saving result they produce. You're paying for the outcome. That's why you don't question the bill. It's the same in your business. Whether you're a coach, consultant, designer, strategist, or service provider, when you price your offer, you need to ask, what is the result this creates for my client? What is the value of that result over a lifetime? And how can I price in alignment with that transformation? Now, I already hear someone saying, but Myron, my market won't pay that much. Let me tell you something. It's not that your market won't pay, it's that you haven't communicated the value clearly enough. People will pay for what they understand, and they'll pay even more for what they believe will change their life. If you're having to explain your price, you're probably selling time. If your clients are saying, how many hours does this include? You haven't communicated the outcome well enough. Because when someone truly sees the result you're offering, they're not asking about the minutes. They are asking, how soon can I start? Let me also speak from a spiritual perspective, because this isn't just business, it's biblical. In Matthew 25, Jesus tells the parable of the talents. One servant was given 5, 1 2, and 1 1. The ones who multiplied what they were given were rewarded. The one who buried his talent out of fear, he was rebuked. Don't bury your value by charging based on time. That's fear-based pricing. That's servant thinking. When you were called to rule, you were created to multiply what you've been given, and when you charge based on results, you step into stewardship. You acknowledge that your gift creates impact, and impact is worthy of investment. So what does this look like practically? It means packaging your offer around what it accomplishes, not how long it takes. It means naming the destination, not the steps. Instead of saying 8 one-hour sessions, you say a 60-day transformation to double your sales. Instead of saying 10 design hours, you say a brand identity that increases trust and conversion. The more you tie your offer to results, the more value your clients experience, and the more you can charge without guilt or hesitation, because you're no longer just offering a service, you're offering a solution. And people don't hesitate to invest in solutions. So today, I want you to shift your thinking. Stop asking, how long does it take? And start asking, what is the result worth? Because when you charge based on results, you respect your gift, you serve your clients, and you operate in alignment with the abundance you were born to create. You don't just get paid more, you create more. For them, for you, and for the kingdom. Most people in business undervalue themselves, not because they're not talented, not because they don't deliver results, but because they're stuck in an old paradigm, the idea that they should charge for their time. They think in terms of hours, sessions, days, or deliverables, but let me tell you something that'll shift your entire business mindset. People don't buy your time, they buy your result, and when you finally understand that, everything changes. Let's start with a simple question. If you help someone make $100 more this year, does it really matter whether you spent 10 hours or 10 minutes helping them get there? Of course not. The value isn't in the time, it's in the transformation. And yet so many entrepreneurs are still operating like hourly employees, charging by the clock instead of charging by the change they create. This is the difference between scarcity thinking and abundance thinking. Scarcity says, I only have so many hours to sell. Abundance says, I have infinite value to deliver. Scarcity says, I'm trading time for money. Abundance says, I'm exchanging value for results. Here's the problem with charging by time. It limits your income, your impact, and your authority. Because once you tie your value to the clock, you put a ceiling on your potential. You say, I'm worth $100 an hour. Instead of, I create $10, zero in outcomes. That mindset traps you. It forces you to work harder and longer just to make more, and eventually you hit burnout. Why? Because you can't scale your time, but you can scale your results. Let's take a real-world example. Imagine someone who teaches business owners how to close high-ticket sales. If they say, you get 4 coaching calls with me, they've priced themselves based on time. But if they say, I'll help you add $20, zero to your bottom line in 60 days using my proven system, and now they've priced based on results. That's a totally different positioning. The second offer sounds more expensive, and it should, because it's focused on what it delivers, not how long it takes. Now, think about this. Some of the greatest value you bring isn't just in what you do, it's in how fast you can do it. If it took you 15 years to master your craft, and now you can deliver results in 15 minutes, should you be punished for that efficiency? Or should you be rewarded for the speed and clarity you bring to someone else's chaos? You're not just getting paid for your time, you're getting paid for your wisdom, your experience, your perspective, and your confidence in solving a problem others can't solve on their own. That's why you don't sell time. You sell solutions. Let's bring this even closer to home. Imagine going to a locksmith because you're locked out of your house. The locksmith shows up, takes out a tiny tool, turns it once, and the door opens in 30 seconds. Now if they charge you $100, are you going to say, but you were only here for 30 seconds? Of course not. You'll say, thank you, because you're not paying for the seconds. They're charging for knowing which lock to pick and how to pick it fast. It's the same with your business. When you help people get results that matter, more income, more time, more peace, better relationships, more clarity, you're delivering something worth paying for. And if you want to get paid what you're worth, you must anchor your pricing to the result, not the effort. This shift also impacts your clients. When they invest in results, they show up differently. They're more committed, they take more ownership, they follow through. Why? Because they're not just buying your time, they're buying the transformation they believe you can lead them to. It elevates the relationship because they see themselves as stepping into something greater. And let's not forget, this principle is spiritual. In Scripture, we don't see God rewarding people for time served. We see Him rewarding faithfulness and fruitfulness. When you multiply what you've been given, your skills, your insight, your divine wisdom, that's when increase happens. That's when you step into overflow, not from doing more time, but from delivering greater results. So here's what I want you to do. Take a look at your offer. Stop asking, how many hours am I giving? Start asking, what outcome am I delivering? What is that worth to my client over the next year, over the next 5 years? And then price it from that perspective, because you are not just a service provider. You are not just a freelancer, you are not just selling a session, you are a catalyst for change, and that change has value. When you charge for the result, you elevate your business, your income, your legacy, and your calling. Stop being a timekeeper, start being a transformer, because that's where the real value lies.